All right, gentlemen and ladies, if there are any, let's take a quick minute to enjoy this body of work before we unbox the mastering chain and see what's inside of it. Let's go.
Mwata na yeze, kula ni nafucheze. Ifumu ni bopa mudede, kwabi witese sipepe. Onkolos, we run am, fala no ijele. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am to Bordeaux. Obodo Ibo, Ivan Paros. Ha! Ndeke wobodo. Ndeke jobodo. Obodo delo jinji. Ae anya putago.
Yeah, and that's it. Very, very nice arrangement. Very, very neat mixing. So one thing you might notice right off the bat is that I mixed the song pretty quietly, so you can see the levels of the wave file or the level of the waveform. You can see how small they are. That means they came out of mixing really, really quiet. So now I'm going to play back what the mix sounds like before any of this processing. Let's hear how the mix sounded like before this whole mastering chain came on top of it. You might want to turn up your headphones or your speakers at this point because it's going to be drastically lower. So let's go.
Ndeke wobodo. Ndeke jobodo. Obodo delo jinji. Ae anya putago. Mwata na yeze, kula ni nafucheze. Ifumu ni bopa mudede, kwabi witese sipepe. Onkolos, we run am, fala no ijele. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast.
Alright, so there's no need playing that one all the way through. You can see from the peak meter here that we were averaging between -11 and -7, -8 dBFS on the loudest hits, right? So this mix came into the mastering session with plenty of headroom. I mixed really quietly, and I think I was able to get there because my gain staging was done properly. I didn't want to really boost levels in the mixing. I just wanted to get a very perfectly or close to perfect balance and soundscape and all of that, and then do the gain boosting and all of that in the mastering session. So yeah, now that that's out of the way, let's see what's actually inside of the mastering chain. And I must tell you, this is a very, very simple mastering chain. So let's just go right ahead and take a quick peek at what's happening inside. So the first thing on the channel itself is some linear phase EQ. And what I'm doing is first off a low shelf cut around 70 Hertz. I'm doing -2 dB cut there, and that's because I'm going to be boosting it a little bit with the next processing, which is a tape machine, tape emulation, and that's going to introduce some more low end. So I didn't want to have this low end be really loud going into that, so I just took a little bit out so that I can get more of the low end richness from the tape emulation instead. And then I'm doing a little bit of a cut around 144 Hertz, just 1 dB cut, and then 1 dB around 880 Hertz as well. So let's hear what I'm really taking out from those frequencies.
Ndeke wobodo. Ndeke jobodo. Obodo delo jinji. Ae anya putago. Mwata na yeze, kula ni nafucheze. Ifumu ni bopa mudede, kwabi.
So you can hear as we boosted that when the bass comes in, that's the bass of the singer. When it comes in, it becomes very, very boomy, and as well the percussion as well, that low end percussion becomes quite boomy around that region too. So I'm just using that small notch to target both the bass vocal and as well as the percussion that's coming in. So I'm just doing a little bit of a notch around that frequency, not so much. And then here,
Ndeke wobodo.
You can hear immediately just how nasally that sounds, and that's not something you really want to boost in your mixes or in your masters. So I'm just notching these guys out a little bit, and then the next thing I'm doing is introducing some tape saturation, and I'm also using another product from IK Multimedia. So what I've done is I've boosted the input by about 1 dB, and I've also taken back from the output at 1 dB as well. I've chosen the 15 inches per second tape speed, and what that helps me achieve is get a little bit more of that low end boost that I was actually looking to get from this tape machine, and I've chosen this as my tape formula. So yeah, that's about that, and I haven't messed with any of these knobs at all, so I've just left everything else the way they are. And then I'm sending that into the Abbey Road TG mastering plugin, and what I'm really messing with here is the tone section, that's the EQ section. So I have it on the mid side. I'm just trying to dial in the mids and the sides so that I can get a more defined balance between the mid frequency and the side image. So what I'm doing is on the lows, I'm not doing any boost or any cuts, but on this low mid right here, I'm doing a little bit of a boost. Let's audition that to hear what I'm adding to it. Let me move the music a little bit forward. So you can hear all of that beefiness is what I'm pushing forward just a little bit on the mid channel. And then a little bit more presence on the high mids as well. Just making sure that those vocals are really up front. And then I'm not doing anything on the highs. And on the side channel, what I'm doing is I'm taking away, right? So here I've boosted that really low, not very low, but then like the fundamental where everything kind of comes together, and hits you in the chest. I've boosted that region on the mid channel, and then on the side channel, I'm just taking away from that just a little bit. You can hear that region tends to be a bit muddy on the side, so I'm just removing that just a little bit, and then I'm boosting around here on the high mids. So just above where the presence of the lead vocals are, where you have now the remaining of the other instruments and the other vocals, the backing vocals and the other instruments and percussions. So that range, I'm just pushing it out a little bit into the side channel and just getting more width from that. And of course on the highs I'm doing some boosts, but then just a little bit. That air, we want it to really spread out wide. So these changes are really subtle, but then they add up, right? So if I should take away all that we've done so far and then bring them back in, if you are using a very good pair of headphones or studio monitors, you should be able to pick up on the little differences. She give me kebe, I lock am to Rose, fly am to Bordeaux, Obodo Yibo, give am paros. Right, so at this point I introduced some subtle saturation, and what I'm doing is I'm boosting the highs overall from about 9K and up. I'm just doing a little bit, not even up to a dB, about 0.3 dB, just to introduce a little bit of shine. And then here, right around the mids, around 1K, so from about maybe 800 to about 2K or thereabouts, I'm just lifting it a tiny bit, still less than a dB, right? Just to bring the entire music, forward a little bit and make it sound in your face. And yeah, that's all I'm doing on the channel. And then on the master, the first thing I have is the God particle, and I'm just using this section right here to introduce some kind of color and saturation, whatever it is that this knob does. I've just, you know, boosted it a little bit. So the default is at 100%, which is about half of the way, because this goes all the way up to 200%, but I've left it at 110%. I don't want to do so much of that. And then I've turned off the limiter because, you know, I don't want to get it as loud quite early. I want to do some clipping and some other adjustments before I start to boost the volume. So the next thing I've done is I've boosted the input a little bit just to get it to be hitting inside of this target. So the way this plugin is supposed to work is you get your input to be sitting within this range here, and once your music is sitting within here at its loudest, then you are at a healthy level for the rest of the parameters to work.
Oncolos, we run am, Falano Ijele. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to
if I turn this off,
fly am to Bodo. Obodo you go give am paros. Ha!
You can hear how it just breathes some life into the mix, right? So I don't know exactly what that knob does, but it just adds some life, and I don't want to overplay on that. I just, you know, want it to add that life just a little bit. So right after that, the next thing I'm doing is clipping. This is my first stage of clipping. Usually I do 2 stages of clipping when I master. The first one to target the really loud peaks, just to shave them off a little bit, get about 1 dB or 2 dB of gain reduction from the clipper, and then the next clipper I'm also targeting within the same range.
Oncolos, we run am, Falano Ijele. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am to Bodo. Obodo you go give am paros. Ha!
So you can see we're hitting about 2.7 dB of gain reduction. This is how much we are clipping off the material. You can see all these very spiky transients. So I'm just reducing these transients. I'm, you know, bringing the highest peaks a little bit closer down to the rest of the body of the music, and then I'm taking that further by still decreasing, you know, cutting off some of those excess peaks, again shaving them off, and then this helps me get a louder master and also a very punchy master as well.
Oncolos, we run am, Falano Ijele. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am to Bodo. Obodo you go give am paros. Ha!
So if you watch closely, if you look at this and then look also at this point, you'll find out that a lot of the main track is not really being clipped. It's just the loudest kick. So what I was targeting was the kick, right? The kick was the loudest in this mix, and then I'm just trying to shave off the excess peaks so that it doesn't get to the limiter first. Of course, it's still going to get to the limiter first, but then it's not going to get to the limiter as early as, you know, it would have gotten to the limiter if I don't have these clippers engaged. So yeah, that's the point of using a clipper. It helps you get a punchier, louder master.
Oncolos, we run am, Falano Ijele.
You can see just the kicks.
Too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am.
And then comes the limiter. So what you'll notice is, because I've been able to clip in 2 different stages, the entire material is not going to be hitting the limiter as aggressively. In fact, it's going to be hitting the limiter at a very consistent level, so the limiter can act more normally or more precisely.
Oncolos, we run am.
Ooh, sorry about that. I should have warned you to take back your volumes down. So yeah, please go ahead and take back your volume. Turn it down a little bit.
Oncolos, we run am, Falano Ijele. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am to Bodo. Obodo you go give am paros. Ha!
Now you can see that because of two major things, one, proper gain staging during the mixing stage, and as well clipping, I've been able to get, without even limiting so much. I don't think I was getting up to 2 dB of gain reduction with this limiter, but then see where I'm hitting on the LUFS meter already, minus 10 LUFS, which is very, very decent if you are going to be exporting this and sending it off to streaming platforms. Let's see where the LUFS reading was at before I engaged the limiter.
Oncolos, we run am, Falanoi Jelle. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am to Bordeaux. Obodo Yibo, give am paros.
So you can see we're right around minus 19, minus 20 LUFS, and then as soon as the limiter comes up,
Oncolos, we run am, Falanoi Jelle. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am to Bordeaux. Obodo Yibo, give am paros.
Now I can go for more gain reduction on this limiter without even distorting, right? I can probably aim for more, about 3 or 4 dB of gain reduction, and that should even get us to about minus 9 or closer to minus 8 LUFS. I wanted it to stay dynamic, but be very consistent, and that's what I've been able to achieve. For fun's sake, let's push it and see how much we can get without distorting.
Oncolos, we run am, Falanoi Jelle. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am to Bordeaux. Obodo Yibo, give am paros. Ndeke wobodo, ndeke jobodo. Obodo delo go, obodo delo jinju. Ae anya putago. Oncolos, we run am, Falanoi Jelle. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am to Bordeaux. Obodo Yibo, give am paros.
So as you can see, even with a minus 5 dB of gain reduction, we still have a fairly dynamic master, and we're at about minus 8.7, minus 8.5 LUFS, which is really, really loud. There are louder masters that are about minus 7, even minus 5, but I mean, for this kind of genre, minus 8, minus 9 is, still very, very fair. So yeah, but then I thought, what's the point? I can get that loud, but why would I want it that loud? There isn't any need for that.
Oncolos, we run am, Falanoi Jelle. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am to.
So I'm just okay with the limiter, just kissing those peaks just a little bit and just turning them down. And then the next thing I like to do is, after I use the Pro L2, I always use a brick wall limiter as a safety net, and this is where I set my final output ceiling, and I always like to put it at minus 1. Very many engineers have where they set theirs, but for me, minus 1 is where I've always put mine. Some engineers set it to minus 0.1, minus 0.3, minus 0.5, minus 0.7. There are varying numbers, right? But for the longest time, I've been doing at minus 1, and that's just where I've had it ever since. And then here, I'm just pushing the input by 1 dB just to get a little bit more gain reduction.
Oncolos, we run am, Falanoi Jelle. The popori too much, she open toros. She give me kebe, I lock am to coast, fly am.
As you can see here, we're just getting about 1 dB, 1.5 dB of gain reduction, and that's the whole chain. That's everything, and we have a clean, loud, punchy master, and that's how you do it, guys. Nothing so complicated. Just know what you are aiming for, know what you want, and then just go for it. And that's about that. Thank you for coming with me on this ride. If you want to see the mixing breakdown, just let me know in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to do a breakdown for this mix and let you see everything that I've done within the mix. Thank you very much for coming, and I'll see you in the next video.